Business has to deal with the data and to get the insightful information, and also to look into those areas in which they have to move ahead, forwarding, forecasting, exploring, expansion, diversification, tapping more markets. So, using data is assisting the businesses in making wiser decisions. And this is a very important step because once the decisions are made, those are in action afterwards. But those actions will be revealed and based upon the decision making. So that's very important. So we will discuss some crucial inquiries that is regarding to that of the data, rather big data, and also to see to that how the companies collect the data and through that how much they are aware because of the reasons that data security, and also we are looking into that of the cyber security. There are laws also, so that to check that everything is moving in a very systematic way. And this is very important, keeping in a view that why the company will collect the data. That's a question that itself is a question which a company has to ask to themselves, why they want to collect the data. Now, data has to be for the purpose of understanding their situations, the conditions, the customers' base, the channel of distribution, or whatever the aspects which are there in the business with the variety, whether it can be collected through the primary data or through the secondary sources. The purpose is to make the collection of the data. Now, the data collection itself has got a lot of strengths because it is slowly collected over the time. Because the trends will determine, the situations will determine, the marketing conditions will determine the nature of the data. And it is not a thing which will be obtained overnight. It has to be seen with the lots of aspects to make clear that what kind of data is being gathered and how it will be used. The purpose of the data. You see, data collection is important, and on the basis of the data, the analysis will be done. Now, that analysis of the data will reveal an information, and that information will be used by the managers or to the extent to those decision makers for effective decision making. Now, this is the purpose. So we have to be understandably be clear about the legalities of the data to see to that how much important the data is and how we are ethically collecting the data for the purpose of our business. You see, there is a huge competition, and over the years it has increased, and it will increase, in fact, because of the awareness, because of the advancement in the technology. Am I audible? Is my voice coming?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Keeping in a view that this aspect has got a lots of implications which determines the future course of the action, keeping in a view that how best we are than that of the competitor. You see, customer has got a bundle of expectations, keeping in a view he or she has a knowledge also, is aware because of the awareness which has been prevailed because of the developments, and also because of the connectivity with the internet, with the advancement of the technology, keeping all those aspects into the consideration. So the customer is very importantly understanding what is being offered by the companies through their goods or services, which in turn is the side of a company, how they will understand the exact expectation of the customer. That itself is to be determined, but that is where the companies will look into that, how to see and how to proceed with the data that has to be stored. You see, data storing is again very important. They can store into the segments, keeping in view the different types of the information required with respect to that of the areas, with respect to that of the gender. It can be with respect to that of the buying behaviors. It can be the respect of that of the income level. It can be to the respect of the areas, whether it's urban, semi-urban, rural, keeping in view every type or age groups, keeping in a view that how it will be stored, because it is a process through which the data which is further analyzed will reveal the information. Now, this is very important that we have to understand how do you plan to leverage the big data. Now, understandably, that consumer targeting in the marketing is to see that how much there is an interaction in the situations of personalized customer interactions. With that of, we will look into that how we are understanding the predictions, the futurist approach, the predictions forecasting. This is again very important, keeping in a view that the companies will not look into those aspects which will determine the shortcuts. No, even to the extent to see to that there is no data breaching, fraud detection. See, the companies will try their level best to see to that how they are tightening the guidelines that demand careful planning, and also to have certain plans B, C, and alternate modes to see to that how to check into the account of the legal responsibilities that come with such information, so as to prevent any illegal and or any of the breaching of the data or any of such situations, because security of the data is of immense importance, and revealing the personal information through of any of the company is a data leakage, and that is not a good sign, and that will lead to the problems, because customers identity, customers information has to be determined privately, and it has to be secured and saved by the company so that it is not revealed to the others. So, using that, the companies will formulate the strategies and understand the legal duties. And this is the primary thing. Companies will not take this lightly, because there are such a huge database, especially when we talk about the customers. So that has to be determined on the ways how the companies will look into for the processes when assessing the legal issues for adopting the big data. So they can go in for the well-defined data
In
ownership with
Europe,
regard to the
remember,
data generators, to see to that
they have been
those
scientists.
transparent policies are
Just listen
there,
to me,
so
bro.
that
When
there
you're
is a
dark,
proper
when you're in
entity,
dark,
the principles
just
are being
remember,
followed
they
in
have been
terms of the
scientists.
saving of the information of the customer, thorough and ongoing review of the state laws, the policies, the regulations, the legislations, all those aspects to determine, and also to see that we are having a good impact on the customer, and we don't have to look into the customer with an object that we know more about them that they would look like. No, we have to be very clear and assessing. You see, customer has got an expectation which I already mentioned, but that expectation has got its own secrecy attached with the identity of the customer, and that is very important. The companies have to look into that to take care the identity of the customer, and to check to that extent the customer is also having a belief, the trust in a situation to that, because there are so many in we can say informations of the customer which are revealed, and that is something which the companies want to have the data security, to have to that of using on the basis of the data ownership, to look in for the transparent policies, to see to that that all the policies are being followed sincerely, and to understand that it will lead to that of the proper, we can say, checking of the data, and also to the securing the data. Now, that data ownership is a sensible place to start when examining data security and customer privacy. Customer privacy is of immense importance. It has got its implications very importantly, because the ownership of the data itself is to see how the customer's identification is secured. it is private. It has not to be leaked, it has not to be revealed, it has not to be shared, that it is not to be going into that, because it is a data ownership. Keeping in a view that data ownership will be difficult with big analytics platforms, but it has to be managed, it has to be seen, to carefully evaluate their risk exposure of the business. Extent it has got its own strengths. Even if there is a breach of the data,
Hello. Sir, you're not audible. Sir, your voice is not audible.
hello, am I audible? Sorry, there was
Yes, sir.
some
Now audible, sir.
yeah, there was some network issue. I'm just connecting again. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm connecting again. Is the screen visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Visible,
Yes.
sir.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I was looking into this aspect for the critical areas of the legal risk in the which the data security has to be seen. And this is again a very important aspect where we have to look in for
What about the red
the
one
all
upstairs?
we can say basic aspirations.
Just
Even I
creating
was sharing with you
bubbles
before
around
this
the
point
sometimes
that when we
here
open
and
an email account,
creating a bubble
there
underneath
we
the
find
bubble
that
has it
sometimes
all written in the
we
structure.
continuously go
What
on
is
to the
the
next
regulation
next
taken
next
by
and agree
RBI
and accept
or
the
SEBI in that
points
case?
as regards to that of opening an account, but there are so many terms.
It's correct
We have
regulation,
to
but
read those.
where is
Exceptions
it
may be
correct?
there, those who may read or may not, but to that extent we follow that aspirations to the extent that we are
Because there
agreeing to
always
that.
with a lot of
Same is the case with that of
influence
the
with
business,
investors.
same is the case
There are a
with
lot
that
of
of the
liquidity
data,
and
where
liquidity
which
in the
for the
market.
company they have to look in for the ownership and the custody, and also to believe into that of the regulations. Now, terms of confidentiality, retention and archiving of data, international and geographical issues, all those aspects have to be taken into the consideration as for the data security is concerned. You see, companies are trying their level best to make the confidentiality of the data, retention of the data, to see to that they are following the norms, they are following the, we can say, points. But it is very important to see to that extent how well the consumer privacy is maintained. Understand what personal information is, personally identifiable of the information, to see to that there is a consumer privacy. You see, if there is a consumer privacy, that will lead to that of the trust building. There will be no trust deficit. It will lead to that of the trust building, and that building of the trust is a measurement which the companies have to take into the consideration in way how they are looking into the businesses. Companies are trying to that extent how they are understanding the ways of the positioning of the levels. Legal issues in the big data. You see, businesses would evaluate a particular data based upon how it will affect the people. They are looking into that because the security of the data, as far the personal information is concerned, has to be taken. And also, data users can gain the real benefits by conducting a thorough big data using the evaluation properly. And it is very important to look into those ways because data users will no longer be compelled by law to erase personal information after it has fulfilled its intended use under such an alternatively privacy framework. I was sharing that when we are opening an email account or something, when we go to the social site for its opening the account, there are terms, there are conditions which we accept. On the basis of that, we then follow it, and we look into those ways in terms of understanding that we are following those terms and conditions. So aim is the case. So aim is the position of the company. When a customer will reveal a particular information, that itself leads to that the company is acquiring the information, but the security of the personal information from the side of the company has to be measured with the aspect of its own considerations. You see, big data's arrival has significantly accelerated the social change. It has, in fact, indeed increased the businesses also. It has increased the competition also. It has increased the businesses to manyfold, but it has raised also serious concerns regarding to that the security of the personal information. So we have to find the ways. We have to understand the situations. So in order to reduce the likelihood of private data, the companies have to advance their economic developments regarding to that of the involving into the security of the data, protection of the private data, and also to look in for the internal data security to check that the situation there is no we can say data breaching. Cyber security itself is very important as regards to the data is concerned. Now, as regards to the control over data is concerned, big data ownership rights provide a significant competitive advantage. You see, since the data is also used and shared, the data owner has the authority over the data. That is understandable because the data is also shared, the data is also used. Now, the privacy policy or the online services or mobile applications occasionally define rights to data. But we have to check also, as from the side of the companies concerned, that we are looking in for checking and using those data with that of the authority, not to look into that it has to be kept only with the purpose of the business. No, it is true that it has to be looking in for the business, but not only, but to see to that we are maintaining the security as well as that of the safety. Another is intellectual property protection. It is again, as a result, it is not prohibited for the different actors because we are looking in to ensure holding the rights and the protection of the data sets. We have to look into for that the enormous data sets which are there are looking in for the better of the collaborations. It is also looked upon how well we are looking in for protecting the intellectual property. Connecting to that, we are collaborating in the data sharing for high data capacities, meaning that we are looking in for the inherent nature and protecting the rights as regards to that of, say, something like that of patents, something like that of copyrights, trademarks, keeping in a view that these also has got an implications as regards to that of the data is concerned. Now, when we talk about the terms of the service agreement, now what it means, it means the services agreement. It outlines the steps that can be taken to lessen the likelihood of client cases. It is again very important to understand how much the data we are using and how much data is taken into that of the clients. It is also to establish the proper usage restrictions on the activities to determine to that act wherein we are looking in for the businesses, wherein we are looking in for the growths, wherein we are looking in for the amplifications. Now we can just have a notice or the consent. So that is again a point. The data owner should be informed of the purposes for which and by whom his data will be used. That is very important. That is to be the data is to be used. For what purpose the data is to be used. Owners should be prompted for their consent, and organizations should make clear how and why the data will be utilized, to see to that extent how the data is being used and managed, and how it is created to that extent where the businesses can flourish further. The owner of the sensitive data is unaware of how and where his personal information is being utilized, and also to learn about him or her, to see to that where this personal information is utilized. As regards to we as an individual, we reveal our information to certain company, but we should be also aware to that extent that information or the details or the data regarding to us which we are providing to a particular company, they are utilizing it for the purpose of only for which we in sense are making it happen, that the data is shared for the purpose only. Supposingly we are going to purchase a car, for example, I'm taking an example, so that we will determine that the data or the information or the we can say identity which we are sharing, it is meant only for the purpose of the purchasing of the car, that of the car dealer where from we will buy the car. But at the same time, that car dealer will also have to be very clear to keep the safety and the security of the my data, my information, so that it is not forwarded or it is not leaked or it is not shared or something like of that, which will lead to that of the breach of the trust, and it will create the problems, because my identity has got many details. It can have also the details of my Aadhaar card, it can have my details of my PAN number, or it can have my details of my account. So keeping all those aspects into the consideration, so it has to be seen in that ways also. Now the ideas of access and the participation, that is also very important. To determine whether or not the data is correct or full, the data owner himself has access to it, to check that how well the data is utilized, how well the data is being put in front, how well the data is connected to that of the transactions or to the business. So the associations that are using the owner's data are not directly related to them, but it is through the point of the owner of the data, as regards to that how they are utilizing it with the perspective of its participation or its access. If that has to be seen, it has not to be gone into that of the ways. And also we don't have to track DNT, do not track, you see, the personal information, very importantly in the areas like that of health, like that of financial, or something like that of likes or dislikes, those are prohibited. A serious invasion of privacy occurs when private and sensitive data is collected or tracked. The government should create the legislation against this kind of behavior. This is very important, and we don't have to see to that. Nevertheless, there are so many firewalls, there are so many, we can say, antiviruses, there are so many, we can say, softwares which reveal that the data is secured, but still there should be a doubly sure as regards to that of the data security and the privacy is concerned. The identification is again very important, because the identification refers to the process of ensuring that data cannot be used to determine who the data owner is. It has to be kept secret so that it has to be kept sensitive. When merged with another data, the data should not expose the identity. It has to be not revealed the identity of a person. It has to be kept, it just has to be kept secret, because it is important in a way to prevent the re-identification in terms of that also, because so that there that safety of the data. If there will be something which is going into the incorrect hands, or something that is going into those directions where there will be a misuse of the data of a particular individual, it will lead to problems. So we have to be very clear. So that holistic approach to data privacy is very important. You see, data privacy compliance can only be attained if businesses eliminate their compartmentalized processes. That means we have to see to that of all the divisions. If in the business we have got marketing division, we have got the sales division, we have got the HR division, we have got the finance division, to see to that how all the divisions are maintaining the data to that extent, to see that even in the friend circle we can comment or we can give the information of the employees, but no, it has to be kept particularly to the extent to that of the customer database, wherein we know